Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and today we're continuing with our divisional breakdowns, and we're going down south to the NFC South. And now, if you're currently wondering, hey, Tom, the order that you put out the AFC videos, the North should be today. You're 100% correct, but I'm going to be having a Vikings fan on next week to break down the NFC North with me. So, suck on that. He's going to hurt my feelings. He definitely is. So, let's talk about the NFC South. But before we do, let's talk about our sponsors, DoubleDriveSports.com. The online website where you can pick them each week, pick what teams you think are going to win. You pick against the point spreads, and at the end of the year, you join this public league, or if you have friends, unlike me, you can go on and join with your own friends in your own league, or you can join the public league, which I will be in. And at the end of the year, if you have the most points, you win this, the Hopper, this beautiful trophy that was handcrafted by the gods themselves. And I'm going to win it. But you could try to pry it from my cold, dead hands by joining DoubleDriveSports.com. They're our sponsors. Love them. I love you. We love everybody. Now, except the Vikings fans. Now, NFC, I do love you. I'm sorry. That was harsh. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm not. All right, the NFC South. Let's take a look at what we have. One of the stronger divisions over the past few years. Last year, Saints finished at 11-5, at the Panthers right at their heel at 11-5. The Falcons at 10-6, and the Buccaneers at 5-11. So all these teams, except the Buccaneers, were doing pretty darn well last year. I expect some similar outcomes in that this is one of the stronger divisions in the NFL, if not the strongest, in that you could essentially have three teams jumping into the NFC playoff picture. But that being said, the Buccaneers, man, I watched Hard Knocks last year, and I had hope for like a hot second, and then I watched like you play the preseason on Hard Knocks, and that just went away really, really quick. But they had like a lot of Game of Thrones fans on there, so I was pulling for you. Yeah, you were supposed to be the chosen one. Now let's talk about the division winners, the New Orleans Saints. Now, the New Orleans Saints made a big offseason move in the draft. Yeah, they got defensive end Marcus Davenport. Yeah, and he might have a great career. That's fine. The reason why I'm really lingering on this is because they gave up a first-round pick in 2019, and who did that go to? The Packers! And so, because of that, we have 2 first-round picks in 2019. So, Packers fans, while I do like Drew Brees, I'm hoping they tank this year. I don't think it'll happen, but I hope they tank so we can get that sweet, sweet, sweet top pick. Now, that being said, the Saints looked pretty damn good last season, and if not for a completely botched defensive play, they would have been in the NFC Championship game. Yeah, we all remember how that went. Now, they have Kamara, who, oh man, I wish I picked him up in fantasy last year, but I didn't. I just let him sit there, and my dad drafted him in the fantasy league, and he made me cry every week. Ingram has a 4-game suspension, so Kamara will get a lot more opportunities. Sean Payton's already said that they're going to use him a lot more, so it'll be interesting to see. He's such a dynamic player, whether it's catching the ball or obviously out of the backfield. So their running game should be great. And when Ingram comes back, Ingram's a great player as well. He's had this resurgence over the past few years. They also signed Cameron Meredith and Ben Watson to make that offense more potent, give him some big targets for Drew Brees. Meredith, a big player in Chicago, big wide receiver, didn't really live up to the hype, got injured, obviously. And then Ben Watson is a big target for the red zone for Drew Brees. Drew Brees can make anyone look like a superstar. And then Michael Thomas, their dynamic wide receiver who was catching all the balls last year. So they'll be doing really well on the offensive side of the ball. The Saints look to me almost like the Packers, except the Saints have some of those key defensive stars like Lattimore. Good God, Lattimore was beautiful last season. I wish the Packers had somebody like that, but maybe they do. And like Jair Alexander or Josh Jackson. It's not going to be Josh Jackson, but it could be Alexander. in that what a playmaker he is. So the defense should definitely be improved. And I see the Saints doing well again, especially with that dynamic offense. Drew Brees can keep any team in, just like Aaron Rodgers can make the Packers look a lot better when they might not necessarily be good. But we'll talk about that later. Now, the Carolina Panthers, besides Cam Newton getting in the face of Kelvin Benjamin because Kelvin Benjamin run his mouth on Twitter and then running away from Cam Newton, they had a pretty good season last year. They added C.J. Anderson, so they got a new runner. They got Torrey Smith. They got Poe on the defense. They drafted DJ Moore, the wide receiver. However, they lost Stewart, for example. The big thing about the Panthers has been their defense has been good, but at the same time, Cam Newton has no weapons to throw the ball to. So Kelvin Benjamin can run his mouth about how inaccurate Cam Newton is, and he hasn't been playing the greatest, but he hasn't really been helped out at all either. They had Christian McCaffrey last season, who showed that he is definitely a great player, whether it's in the passing game or the rush game. So McCaffrey, fantasy owners, I would look to him that he's going to be putting up a bunch of points. The defense has degraded over the past few years. Their front seven is pretty solid, but with the addition of C.J. Anderson, DJ Moore, and Torrey Smith, at least Cam Newton has someone to throw the ball to. So I think they'll do pretty well this year. But I think their offense is definitely behind teams like the Saints and the Falcons. Who, speaking of, what a transition, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons made it into the playoffs again. Matt Ryan declined a little bit from his MVP season 2 years ago. But they drafted some new weapons. They got Calvin Ridley, that wide receiver on the offense. They got Isaiah Oliver, who I talked about on this show, the cornerback, who I love the way that he plays. So they have this amazing offense, as demonstrated when they destroyed the Packers for the past 4 years. They have Sanu, they have Hooper, they have Ridley, they have Julio Jones. They have a great running game. So they have all the pieces. So you might be wondering, why does their offense, what's going on? How come Matt Ryan declined when they have this really solid offense? Well, that's because of their offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian. This guy, when I was talking to Falcons fans last year, they were like, we need to bring this guy out back and just let him fly away. And that's the nice way of saying, euthanize him, because he is just abysmal. I thought they were going to let him go this year, but instead they kept him around. And so that might be something that the Falcons are going to come to regret, because with this offense, if you can't put up points, yikes. That means that it's really, really time for Sarkisian to go. Their defense should be improved as well. Their D-line got a lot better. And then obviously, like I said before, with Oliver, I think that this is a really good team. I could see them finishing first or second within the NFC South. So again, we definitely have some contenders here. And then finally, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They drafted Vita Vea, this huge guy, to help out that defense. Other than that, that's the nicest thing I have to say about the Buccaneers. They lost the muscle hamster Doug Martin, which understandable. The guy hasn't really been doing that well for a while. They got Ronald Jones for the running back from the draft. But the big question, they have O.J. Howard, that tight end who was doing well last year. But the offensive line is super duper weak. And the big question is going on with Jameis Winston. Is this guy a bust? Is it time for the Buccaneers to move past him as a franchise and kind of just be like, well, this sucked. It is what it is. He has obviously Mike Evans to throw to, but even he started doing I don't want to say poorly. He was putting in less productivity last year. There's also questions about his work ethic, but they just signed him to this huge contract. And again, everything looked nice and fine on Hard Knocks, but I think Jameis Winston is a huge question mark. He really hasn't been making the progression that they would have hoped for him at this point. He's going into, he's not a rookie anymore. So at some point, this might be a make it or break it year from Jameis Winston. And if he doesn't work out, yikes. And then hopefully they also have their kicker situation under control. I really just don't know what they're doing as a franchise right now. And I know that they want to get their defense to get back to being dominant, but their offense needs a lot of help. Mike Evans can't win them every single game. And so, yeah, I think they're going to be struggling, especially in this high-powered division where offense seems to rule supreme. So with that being said, let's break down where we see the rankings. I think the Saints will most likely finish first, but I could see the Falcons sneaking in first. It's all going to depend on what Sarkisian decides to do. With that being said, the Falcons will finish second. Then you have the Panthers, and then I see no change for the Buccaneers. You have 3 teams that could make the playoffs, and the Buccaneers who, yikes, they need lots and lots of help, and it's not coming this season. So I'm sorry, Buccaneers fans. I really don't have good news for you. You got a cool pirate ship though. It shoots cannons when you score. Just doesn't happen very often. But let me know what you think down below, and if you agree with these rankings. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossi Comedy, or Tom Grossi Comedy on the Twitter and the Facebook and the Instagrams. You can check all that stuff out. My debut comedy album, Allergic to Fun, is coming out August 24th. You can get it digitally on iTunes, Amazon, or you could get a physical copy on TomGrossiComedy.com. So thank you for supporting that. I am very, very proud of it, and I hope you enjoy that as well. If you want to support Parkinson's research, I'm running for Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research in the New York City Marathon in November. There's a donation page that you can set 100% of the proceeds go to them, so you can check that out down below. So next week, what we'll have an NFC North breakdown, and we will have the interview from Mark Murphy. So stay tuned. We're just getting started. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, go Pack Go.